Toby Perkins.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. A great pleasure to speak under your chairmanship, as you enjoyed recently a landslide victory of your own, and so huge congratulations to you on your appointment. We finally reach the end of the beginning stage of Brexit. It is a huge matter of regret to me that this Parliament and its predecessor has failed to compromise, and the Remain camp in the United Kingdom has learned the same lesson as the pro-Union camp did in Scotland. First past the post can be pretty brutal when only one party is on one side of a binary issue, and just as in Scotland, a country that voted against independence keeps electing pro-independence MPs, here in the UK at least there was a majority in favour. Let me just make a little progress and I will come back. At least in the UK, there was a majority, albeit a very narrow one, for leaving the EU. And it is a tremendous failure that the 2017-19 Parliament was unable to agree on a settlement that respected both the referendum and the 2017 general election result. I regret the decision the British public took, but I accept it. And I accept that the indecision and uncertainty that dogged the 2017 Parliament was deeply damaging for businesses. It was deeply damaging for confidence in this institution. And I think it is tremendously regretful that the Prime Minister, having held a general election that she didn't need to, then refused to negotiate with the Labour Party leader, was then put under tremendous pressure by the Eurosceptics in her own party when she attempted to negotiate, and also regret that my honourable friend from Islington North decided to pursue a second general election rather than actually attempting to get the EU Brexit matter resolved. And I think we ultimately are weaker as a result of that. I'll give way to the honourable gentleman.
Thank you for giving way. So you correctly said that the SNP have 80% of the seats and we favour independence, but the key plank of our mandate was actually Scotland's right to choose. So it doesn't matter our views on independence, he's clearly got a different view. Does he not agree with the mandate we've got, and it's for the people of Scotland to choose either independence or reconfirming they want to stay in the Union?
Democracy ended. I think we had a referendum. I came up to Scotland, many other people did, during that referendum. It was very interesting that a few moments ago one of your colleagues was proudly saying we got 45% of the vote, and I thought 45%, that sounds familiar, and that's because of course 45% is precisely how many people voted for independence back in 2016. So I think that matter is settled, and I'm going to deal with the matter that we're dealing with today. But I would just say this, this is the last thing I'm going to say, but I would just say this on Scotland. People must remember, when they hear Scottish National Party MPs stand up and they say that the SNP representing the people of Scotland who all voted in favour of staying in the EU, they should remember that the SNP spent less than 10% of the money on the independence, on the EU referendum that they spent on the independence referendum. They got exactly the result they wanted, which was that Scotland voted to stay in the EU, but the UK voted to leave. And the biggest priority to the SNP has always been independence. That is their priority, and that's why they made the position they did. Now I'm going to make some progress. The honourable gentleman from Tiverton and Honiton claimed that it was that parliamentary uncertainty that we had in the last Parliament that undermined our negotiations. Well, now we will see. Because now there are no excuses for members on the Conservative side. There is no sense that Parliament's position is unknown. It is clear that we're going to leave the EU. They have no one else to blame now. It is entirely their responsibility. And we will see the fishermen, the farmers, those car workers up at Nissan, we will see whether it was this Parliament that was preventing the government getting the deal that they promised during that referendum. And as we vote for this today, I'm very minded that we are voting, and my right honourable friend from Sheffield Central was right to say that this is only the first part of all of this. We will get onto the detail after tonight's vote. But I'm minded to remember that Vote Leave promised us during the last referendum that we will negotiate the terms of a new deal before we start any legal process to leave. That was one of the central promises of the Vote Leave campaign. When we vote tonight, we will be voting against that promise that was made by Vote Leave. We will be leaving the EU and will then be deciding on what basis we leave. But let's see if the government are able to negotiate this much better deal. And I confess that I feel a huge sense of relief as this bill passes as it will tonight, that we can move on to the next stage, and I think we will see whether the government are able to deliver in any way on the promises that they made. Now, the future relationship isn't sorted, and it is now for the Conservative Party and its MPs to decide on what that future relationship will be, but they may well do it without Parliament having much of a say on it. Opponents of the new Tory Eurosceptic consensus have been swept away, and in their place this supine, obedient group of Europhobic robots that we see in front of us have taken their place, and like lambs they will lead us. They will lead us to whichever direction the orders they receive from Uxbridge. And obviously the Right Honourable Member for Uxbridge will receive his orders from Dominic Cummings, and we will see what direction they take us in. I will give way briefly.
The honourable gentleman for giving way, because on the future relationship he's content to leave this to the Tory government. But in Scotland's future relationship, all we get is being patronised. We cannot decide ourselves. The reality is that in 2014 we were promised to guarantee a place in the European Union by staying in the United Kingdom. That promise is null and void now. We have to. We can't have any more non-Scottish MPs patronising the Scottish people yet. Their mandate must be respected. We must have a referendum, and the Scottish people must decide. Not non-Scottish MPs who think this is better for Scotland, the next thing's better for Scotland. Scotland needs to decide.
Well, the honourable gentleman's made his point. I think I've already responded to that. I don't think it takes us any further to go on. Now, returning to the debate in front of us today, I voted for the amendments that my colleagues tabled, and I think we were right to seek to improve this bill. And I regret that the new orthodoxy recognises no value in the Erasmus programme that affords young people without huge wealth to enjoy some of the opportunities that young people with wealth will continue to enjoy. And I think it was triumphalist, and I don't believe it was sensible, to remove the assurances that the Prime Minister had put in place when he passed the second reading in the last Parliament, to remove those out of the bill this time. It is ultimately for the victors to decide who they want to appeal to. It is for the Conservative Party. You've got the Brexit you want now. You can decide. But I think that a party that refuses to try and speak to those who voted against it at one part will find it's in an ever-diminishing pool. And that is a lesson that the next leader of the Labour Party is also going to need to learn. Now, I won't be opposing this bill today, because I think the desire to get beyond this stage is powerful, palpable. I think that businesses and communities wish for the government to map out the future that we foresee for our country after Brexit. But I do think that the government is foolish to continue to try and do a very sort of narrow Brexit of the kind that it has suggested it will. But I'll finish by saying this. Our country has a long history of being a global player. We have taken an active interest in global affairs, made a contribution that far outweighs the size of our nation over all of our history. Leaving the European Union does not have to mean relinquishing or reducing that global role. It does not have to mean retreating into narrow nationalism, but there are many who will support it, who would have that future for our country. The Conservative Party have ceased to be a broad church. Only rampant Europhobia is to be tolerated now. So it is, I've never seen a less broad church. It is now for my party, point at the honourable gentleman for Rayleigh to describe what a broad church they are. This is how desperate it's got. It is now for my party to become a broad church again, to recognise the reasons why communities who voted Labour for decades would choose to seek a future outside the EU while seeking a cooperative and internationalist path for our country. We shan't, as the Labour Party, win votes in this Parliament, but we can, if we choose, lead the way to a different but still close relationship with our nearest neighbours, one that eschews a mean-spirited approach to the most vulnerable people and seeks still to offer opportunities to the next generation of young people that so many of our generation enjoyed.